I thought I'd be farming in Xinghua Village my whole life. Until my best friend on her deathbed handed her family keepsake right into my hand. Since then, I've become the long-lost daughter of the Pei family. I got to live a life of luxury from then on and was doted on by my parents. Days passed by one after another, but every time the night is quiet and still, I'd always take out Yingjiang's leftover belongings. It feels like a heavy stone is weighing on my chest. I know none of this was supposed to be mine, but I'm too greedy for this warmth I've never had before. Until the eldest son of the Pei family came back home from out of town. The man was handsome and dashing, and had a cold, aloof aura about him. The first second we laid eyes on each other, his gaze locked right onto me. His voice was icy cold. "You sure made your big brother look everywhere, little sister." I froze on the spot. A chill seeped through every inch of my body. The man in front of me was the ex-husband who, a year ago, left me without even saying goodbye. Hui. Why is your face so pale? I quickly lowered my head, daring not look straight at the man across from me. I feel dizzy. Besides, your daughter is really shy around strangers. Madame Pei reached out and touched my head. After making sure I wasn't sick, she pulled me into her arms. While introducing him to me, "Come on, tell Mom." Did this jerk scare you? Don't be scared, he's your biological brother. He just looks a bit cold on the outside. He would never hurt you. With that, Madame Pei grabbed a chess piece and threw it at him. First time meeting your own little sister. And you put on that cold face already. What kind of behavior is that? I'm super familiar with that cold face of his. Back when we were still married, Peichi always loved putting on this cold act. Even when we spent every day and night together, he would still keep that cold look on his face. Who would have thought when we meet again today? He's still the same old jerk. Thinking back on the old days, my back went cold, and my palms started sweating like crazy. I sensed a gaze fixed on the top of my head. Peichi's eyes were locked on me once again. The room went dead silent. I held my breath right away. The man's voice was extremely cold. "This is my fault, Mother. I'll definitely be nicer to my little sister from now on, but I'm afraid my little sister might not want that." "What do you think, little sister?" I pinched my hand as hard as I could, desperately trying to keep my voice steady as I replied, "Of course not. If brother is nice to He will be super happy." Only then did Mother Pei smile warmly. She held my hand and patted it, and said I was too weak physically. "It's late. You should go to bed now," and told me to chat with Peiche tomorrow. I lowered my eyes and was just about to leave when that cold, aloof voice came from behind again. I almost forgot to ask, "Before you came to the Pei residence, where are you from, little sister?" Peiche really did suspect something. My heart started beating faster. My nails dug into my palm. A wave of pain hit me. I lowered my head and turned around slowly. "I'm from Yanzhou." "Which county in Yanzhou?" Peiche stared at me silently for a moment, then looked away without showing any emotion. Mother Pei scolded him. "Your old bad habit is acting up again. He is your own little sister? Not some criminal you're interrogating." I clenched my palm even tighter. Peiche returned to the capital a year ago to serve as vice prefect of Jingzhou. 8 months ago. He left the capital to handle a case and didn't come back home until midnight today. Now we're living under the same roof. If he decides to investigate me, it'll be as easy as flipping his hand. His ex-wife is now his supposed biological little sister. The anger in Peiche's heart must have been burning like crazy by now. Luckily, I already prepared a perfect plan beforehand. I'm sure he won't find anything off. I fell asleep with a ton of anxiety, and the next day, since Peiche was back home, the head madam of the Pei family was overjoyed. So she threw a welcome banquet and invited the entire family. All the guests were members of the Pei family, or close relatives of the Pei family. Most of them knew Peiche well. Even though Peiche was a man of few words, quite a few people went up to greet him. When I arrived with Chunyi, the youngest daughter of the family, I saw him just about to sit down. Chunyi hadn't seen him for a long time, so she was a bit excited. "Dear brother, since you're back home this time, did you bring us nice gifts?" Peiche glanced at her briefly, and his tone was, for once, a little softer. "Don't panic, you'll get your share." Watching the two siblings being so affectionate with each other, I was totally flustered. I could only bend over slightly and greet him respectfully. "Elder brother, But Peicha acted like he ran into a distant relative he barely knew. He only responded coldly and sat down straight away, watching his back as he walked away. Chunyi also felt a bit awkward. She scratched her head. Maybe elder brother just isn't close to you, sister. He carried me when I was little, and he was just as cold back then too. But don't worry, sister. Elder brother is always super generous. You'll definitely get a nice gift. I nodded, and tried to make myself as unnoticeable as possible. I still haven't gotten used to these family banquets even after a year. As everyone drank and chatted, the topic naturally turned to marriage. Some elders even started matchmaking for Peiche. The man looked clearly absent-minded, but he still went along with it. After we'd all had a few rounds of drinks, I made an excuse to go to the backyard for some fresh air. I was so flustered inside. I didn't watch where I was going, and tripped and fell. My ankle was throbbing with pain. I almost rolled down the steps, but a large hand grabbed me and helped me steady myself. I caught a whiff of his usual minty scent from behind. I quickly lowered my head and said, "Thank you, elder brother." Peicha glanced down at me, let go of my arm, and turned to walk away. I didn't want to go back to the bedroom, so I wandered around the backyard. I couldn't help but think back to my days at the Pei mansion. All the siblings were really nice to me. A few brothers around my age would often take me shopping in town. The sisters would also hang out and play with me all the time. It felt like we'd all grown up together since we were kids. Only Peiche was scarily cold, even colder than when we were husband and wife. When I walked behind the rose bushes by the lake, I ran into Peiche and Chunyi. Chunyi asked him anxiously, "Elder brother, have you seen sister?" "Which sister?" "Huh." Chunyi laughed out loud. "Who else but sister He-Yi, silly. She promised to sleep with me tonight." Peicha was silent for a long while. I stood still behind the flowers, too. I couldn't tell if I was waiting for Peiche's answer, or waiting to go with Chunyi. I stood there for a while, and was just about to leave, when I heard him scolding Chunyi. "Do you actually think she's your real cousin? She's only been in the mansion for less than a year. Do you know what she's really like? Have you looked into her background properly? You're so stupid, treating an outsider like family." Peicha rarely talked this much, but here he was scolding Chunyi because of me. I turned around. My heart went completely cold. Peicha was even more suspicious of me now, and his dislike for me seemed to have grown too. He already hated me to begin with. Now that he's got his memory and identity back, he doesn't have to pretend anymore. I slept in Chunyi's room that night. Before bed, she swatted twice at the air for no reason. Elder brother's got a screw loose. Just ignore him, sister. I let out a small laugh. But endless sorrow welled up in my heart. Chunyi was so kind, but I really wasn't her real sister. That night, for the first time in a year, I dreamed of my old days back in Manhwa village. I saved Peiche 3 years ago. He had amnesia back then. He couldn't even remember his own name. I picked a name for him and let him stay at my place to recover. His clothes didn't look like those of a regular farmer, so I hoped that when he got better, he'd repay me for saving his life. But he didn't recover for the longest time. Instead, he got really good at doing farm work. His fair face got rougher and rougher, other than his demeanor. He really looked like a healthy village man, even though Peiche did all kinds of work, without complaining at all. He never loved me. He liked the new female teacher in the village. He would wait for her when school finished, and go to the market with her. Me, on the other hand, I couldn't read and was kind of slow. Even a few simple characters. Peicha taught me so many times, but I still couldn't remember them. Peicha frowned and sighed. "Don't go to the fields tomorrow. Just stay in the house and practice writing." He got home really late that night, but I always wanted to talk to him more. "How's your writing going? Don't fixate on such trivial stuff all day." "That's not it. Tomorrow's my birthday. It's been ages since I last had a celebration." I felt wronged and curled back under the covers, and when day broke, Peicha was nowhere to be found next to me. I hurried out to look for him, only to see him chatting with the female tutor in the yard. Peicha handed a wooden comb into her hand. "Take this thing back with you. I don't need it for now anyway." The female tutor chuckled softly. "This jade is such fine quality, you're really willing to give it away as a gift." "Of course I'm willing." That comb was translucent all over. You could tell at a glance it was top-grade jade. He'd never given me such a precious thing before. It was that very day that I decided I didn't want to stay with him anymore. Gu Yingjiang from the east end of the village wanted to leave Xinghua village, so I left with him. Though I hated to leave my small plot of land in the village, I could always come back once I earned enough money away from home. Then early one morning, Chunyi received an expensive gift Pei Che brought back. It was a silver comb carved with the unique totem of Yunzhou. I got absolutely nothing. Chunyi was speechless for a moment and stuffed the comb into my arms. Senior brother is way too much. I'm going to go get justice from Aunt right now. It's no big deal to me. Peisha has always been wary of me anyway, and he hates me too. Even though I know he has no solid evidence against me, I have to make plans as early as possible. Either marry far away from here, or leave the Pei family to find another way out. Noticing that I was distracted, Mother Pei pulled me into her arms to comfort me. You've been acting a bit off lately. Always moping with a long face. I took a deep breath and forced a smile. I was just thinking about that old marriage arrangement from before, and it got me feeling a bit emotional. Mother Lin knows I was married once before, and that man treated me horribly, so I decided to come to the capital to look for my relatives. She said since he didn't cherish me, he has no right to dig into my identity either. Mother Lin hugged me and couldn't hold back her tears again. Good girl. It's all over now. That man didn't treat you well. That's his loss. He has no good fortune. Tomorrow I'll find a few nice young men for you. You can get to know them first. And tell your parents whoever you like. Mother Pei truly treats me well. Feeling her loving care, my eyes couldn't help but turn red. After taking a short nap in Mother Pei's courtyard, my vision was still a bit blurry. Peicha was standing outside the door. When he saw me come out, he didn't say a word. My current status is really awkward after all, so I didn't look at him, and was just about to walk away to avoid him, but Peicha followed right behind me. When did you come back to the Pei residence? Half a year ago, if you count it, not long after I left back then. He recovered his memory, but he had to handle a case, so he left the capital again. Right after he left, I moved into the residence. No longer did I have to depend on the weather for a living like I did in the village. And the roof never leaked anymore either. I had fine clothes and delicious food. And loving parents? It made me have a silly wish. Hoping I could stay in the Pei family forever and stay in the capital for good, my originally perfect plan, didn't account for Pei Che being the eldest son of the Pei family. He treated me like he was interrogating a prisoner, following me silently for a long time. I finally couldn't hold back and asked, "Is there something you need, big brother?" Peicha stared right into my eyes and coldly reached his hand into his lapel. He pulled out a long, flat yellow rosewood brocade box. He stuffed the item into my hand. Sorry, it was my oversight. I forgot to get you a gift. This is to make up for it. I figured Mother Pei must have scolded him. That's why he finally remembered me. I opened the brocade box. Inside was a peachwood comb. The craftsmanship was super rough. The teeth were uneven. It wasn't even as good as the ones handmade by village women back then. Everyone else got gold, silver, and jade. Only I got a lousy wooden comb. It's obvious he looks down on me and refuses to acknowledge me as his nominal younger sister. I thanked him out of politeness. There was another moment of silence. Both of us tacitly avoided bringing up the past. I didn't ask him why he didn't like me, yet still wanted to marry me. He also didn't ask me why I left without saying a word. I didn't have anything else to say, and was just about to say goodbye to him. To go back to my bedroom early, Chunyi came over cheerfully. Her expression changed when she saw Pei Che, but she still spoke politely. "Oh, you're here too, big brother." Maybe she saw how awkward I looked. Aunt Chun made an excuse to get me out of there. "Your mom and aunt are discussing your marriage right now. They're picking a good match for you. Come take a look with me, sis." Peicha frowned. "Marriage? You don't know the story, big brother. My sister had a terrible first marriage. Of course we'll find her a better husband this time." Peicha let out an uncharacteristic cold sneer and asked, "The man from your past marriage? How come I never heard you mention this before, sister? Is there something you can't tell me?" "That guy was a total jerk, big brother. Don't ask about it anymore, okay?" Chunyi got angrier the more she talked. I tugged at her sleeve in a panic, pulled her, and hurried back to the bedroom. I didn't notice Pei Che was staring right at us. His hand was clenched tight into a fist, Mother Pei found a few young men as potential matches for me. My favorite one is named Shu Huijin. He's from the Shu clan of Yunzhou. The emperor's current noble consort is his own elder sister. She just gave birth to a prince for the emperor. His whole family came to the capital to celebrate. People of his status won't stay in the capital for long. If I marry him, I can leave the Pei family as soon as possible, far away from the capital and all the chaos here. No risk of my real identity being exposed. The Zhu family just arrived at the mansion. Mom told me to drop by and meet them. If we hit it off, they'll come to propose marriage on my behalf. I thought for a moment and agreed. The backyard was full of blooming flowers. Flower petals were falling everywhere. Unlike Pei Che, who's cold and aloof, Shu Huijin is extremely handsome, but not feminine at all. He has a very gentle aura around him. He looks really easy to get along with. He even looks a little familiar. The man froze for a second when he saw me. Then he walked over slowly, smiled, and asked, "Are you the daughter Uncle Pei just found?" Pei Che's younger sister. I nodded. "Oh, so you're the young miss of the Pei family. I never thought we'd have this kind of fate. Back when I was in Yunzhou, you saved my life once." I froze on the spot. Then I remembered an old memory. I used to work as an embroideress with Yinjiang in the county town. I did save someone on the road once, but it's been 6 or 7 years already. I really can't remember what that person looked like. Shu Huijin continued explaining. "Even though I had a high fever back then, I still remembered what you looked like, miss. I also remember you have a faint scar on your forehead near your neck. There's no way I got the wrong person. We only met once after all. He doesn't know my real identity. This is such a strange coincidence. Shu Huijin and I started writing letters to each other. Plus, he often came to the Pei mansion to visit Pei Che, so we ran into each other a lot. We got to know each other better gradually. Mother Pei was over the moon. She told me in private. The folk customs of Great Jin are very open. The Shu family knows you were married before, haha. They're even happier about it. I can tell the Zhu family really likes you, honey. If you two hit it off, the Zhu family will come to propose marriage themselves." I nodded. I also knew Shu Huijin didn't mind my past. About the thing between me and Shu Huijin. Mother Pei knew about it, so of course Pei Che knew about it too. Pei Che said unhappily that Yunzhou is too far away. Mrs. Pei said distance doesn't matter. Being happy with each other is the most important thing. She also said I've only been in the mansion less than a year. There's no rush to get married. Mrs. Pei said, completing all the traditional wedding procedures takes time anyway. Amid all the arguing, Shu Huijin was soon going back to Yunzhou. On the Shangzi festival, the capital lifted the curfew for the night. He asked me to go float river lanterns with him. That night I was going to sneak out through the side gate. Before I even stepped outside, Pei Che suddenly showed up and blocked my way. The night breeze blew gently. It swept away the stuffiness lingering in the air, but it couldn't blow away the anxiety I felt inside. Under the cold moonlight, he stood next to the porch pillar, staring at me without moving an inch. "Where do you think you're going, sister?" I took a deep breath and answered respectfully. "I'm going to the river to float lanterns, brother. Mom and Dad already gave me permission." He asked again, "With who?" I was starting to get annoyed. "With Shu Huijin, Mom and Dad know about it." "Elder brother, don't fuss over this." I don't agree. Those 4 icy cold words hit my ears hard. I jerked my head up to look at Pei Che. My voice automatically went up a notch. How come my parents already approved this? What gives you the right to order me around? Pei Che dismissed all the servants nearby. Don't you remember? Zhou Yui? It seems we haven't gotten a divorce yet. He deliberately used my old name. I took a step back without thinking. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. His tone was urgent. He was a big burly man. He completely towered over me in an instant. The air around me was filled with his unique scent. We stared into each other's eyes for a second. That's when I snapped back to my senses. I tried to yank my hand away, but Pei Che held on way too tight. I forced a calm smile. What happened in the past was all a misunderstanding. It won't sound good if word gets out. So I'd ask elder brother to watch your words. We used to be a married couple. Now we're just siblings in name. If this gets out, the entire Pei family will be the laughingstock of the whole capital, even if no one finds out. It's still super awkward to bring up. That's why he hated me, and I avoided him. But I never expected he'd act like this and bring it up like it's no big deal. I was shocked and terrified at the same time. My nails dug into the soft flesh of my palm again. My wrist was still being gripped tightly. The distinct masculine scent of mint kept wafting over, wave after wave. A laugh came from above my head. It sounded both self-deprecating and sarcastic. Peicha lowered his head, dark, complicated emotions swirling in his eyes. He was quiet for a long time before he asked, "Are you really Pei Heian?" I faked a casual laugh, like I just let out a huge sigh of relief. "So that's what you're suspicious of, elder brother. Let me make this clear for you. I am Pei Heian." Anger was clearly visible in Pei Che's eyes. He smiled a cold, creepy smile. He stared daggers at me and said nothing. This was the warning sign before he blew up. There are tons of servants in this manor. Someone could be lurking around for all we know. I was scared he'd say something he shouldn't, so I said a lot of gentle, placating things to him. I remembered this man always falls for that trick. But Pei Che wasn't budging at all tonight. "You're Pei Hei?" "If you're Pei Hei, then back then." I quickly covered his mouth with my hand and shook my head at him like crazy. "Don't say it, please don't. Even if I'm not his biological sister, those things can never be mentioned, ever." Peiche's body visibly tensed up. Just when I thought he'd drop it, he dragged me quickly towards his bedroom. After he closed the door, he leaned his back against it and looked at me with pain in his eyes. Peiche looked like he just heard the funniest joke in the world. He laughed so hard his eyes turned red. "You've been pretending to be my sister? So what do those 2 years we spent together count for? You left without a word a year ago. Then you snuck into the Pei family and told me you were my little sister. Now you even want to marry my best friend? What is this supposed to mean? Zhou Yue, what the hell is this? Do you really care about me that little? Even if I'm super slow on the uptake, I can tell he's furious that I left him. But he married into my family back then. If I wasn't in the village, he could have made up any excuse to cover it. Even if he didn't get his memory back, he still had farmland to work. And fine jade he could pawn. He could have supported himself just fine. I glared at him. And I was starting to get mad, too. I'd ask you again to watch your words, elder brother. What we're doing right now is against the rules. Even though I really wanted to yell at him, I was living under his roof after all. I couldn't do that. I could only remind him of our current statuses. Yeah, I left a year ago, but I never treated you badly. And I know you never loved me. Back when we were in Xinghua Village, you were always cold to me, the person who saved your life. You barely ever initiated anything. I thought about you repaying the favor at first, but you couldn't get your memory back no matter what. So I settled down and tried to make a life with you. I was even glad I got to marry you. I tried so hard to make you happy. Did so many things for you. I sewed your undershirts for you. Warmed your bed for you. Even a block of ice would have melted by now. But you were still cold and heartless. You were like that back then. That's still how you are now. You gave jade combs to all the other sisters. Every single one was exquisitely made. But all I got was a lousy wooden comb. Elder brother, I'll accept it if you hate me, but I finally found someone who truly gets me. What gives you the right to stop me? Peicha froze. He looked like he'd lost all his fight. He spoke only after a long pause. That's really what you think of me. What if I told you you've got me wrong? The grip on my wrist loosened without me noticing. I yanked my hand back. It doesn't matter if it's a misunderstanding or not. I trust my gut on this. Besides, you're my elder brother. You should never say things like that. I ignored him after that and walked out of his bedroom. Peicha's eyes stayed locked on my back the whole time, until I was completely out of sight. When he snapped back to his senses, his personal guard stood beside him. Fisting his hands in a salute, he reported, "Young master." Peicha responded. Zhou Yu's every expression was playing in his head. He clenched his fists tight. "Tell me everything you found out in detail." Guard Zhang lowered his head. His voice was low and heavy. "We've confirmed the young lady's background checks out. Her birthday and keepsake's origins all match up. The day we found the young lady, the madam was offering incense at the temple. She felt an instant bond with the girl at first sight. That's how they got acquainted, and after that, the madam often invited the young lady to the manor. She even planned to take her as a goddaughter. That's how their paths crossed. She happened to spot the keepsake the girl was wearing. They finally realized they were mother and daughter. Peicha was a little annoyed. His mother had already told him all of this. There was no need to look into it at all. Peicha waved his hand, signaling the guard to leave. Just a few moments later, he called for his servant Bei Li again. It was a stunning red coral gold hairpin. As an apology for what happened, for what he did tonight. He had acted impulsively. The next day, Zhou Yue accepted the hairpin. Peicha breathed a sigh of relief. But when he thought about her releasing river lanterns with Shu Huaijin, a sour feeling bubbled up in his chest again. He walked into the courtyard. The myrtle flowers were in full bloom. Those were Zhou Yue's favorite flowers. She planted them herself right after she came back to the Pei residence. You gave jade combs to all the other sisters? Every single one was exquisitely made. But all I got was a lousy wooden comb. Remembering what Zhou Yue had yelled at him, Peicha frowned. She had no idea he carved that comb himself, just so he could give her that comb. He got combs for all the sisters. But she had completely misread his intentions, back when they were in Xinghua village. He had also prepared a gift for her before. It was a birthday gift for her. A jade comb. He even pawned the only jade pendant he had to buy it. Too bad that comb had a small flaw. When summer turned to autumn, everyone was busy harvesting rice. He had to ask the village schoolmistress to go to the county to exchange it for a new one. He also dug up a myrtle plant from the back hill specifically and planted it in the courtyard. Turns out when the comb was finally exchanged and the tree was planted, Zhou Yue was nowhere to be found. Peicha lay on his bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He had searched for her for so many years. How did she end up being his little sister? After that day, Zhou Yue stopped avoiding him. It seemed she truly saw him as her elder brother. For this, Mother Pei was overjoyed. Glad that the two of them were finally getting along better. When they left Mother Pei's courtyard, Chunyi was walking arm in arm with her. Both of them greeted him at the same time. Peicha nodded in response. His gaze brushed past the gold hairpin in Zhou Yue's hair. Xu Huaijin has returned to Yunzhou. I'm not sure, but he should be back soon. Zhou Yue said goodbye to him. The two girls walked away chatting happily. That night, ever since he returned to the capital, Peicha slept soundly for the first time in ages. He dreamed about the old days. Back then, Zhou Yue was still his first wife. They were so close and happy together. But the dream took a sudden turn for the worse. He was kneeling in the Pei family's ancestral hall. His father was yelling at him furiously. How dare you ignore your status and ruin the family's reputation? A rattan whip lashed hard against his back. Zhou Yue was sobbing uncontrollably, wailing about all the unfair things that happened to her. Haisha woke up with a jolt, gasping for air. The sky outside the window was already turning pale. The morning light was faint. Soft early morning sunlight pierced through the clouds, spills over the earth, and lights up this cold, quiet room. The sweltering heat hasn't faded yet. He glances down at himself. Scenes from the dream flash through his mind. Something explodes in his head. Pei Hei has a mole on his thigh. Zhou Yue doesn't. He's just about to get out of bed. A personal guard hurries over and says, "Young master, the young lady is missing." Peicha's eyes turn bloodshot red. He crushes the teacup in his hand by accident. Chu Yue is gone. Peicha is naturally suspicious. He'll definitely turn the whole world upside down to find me. But he'd never guess. I went back to Yanzhou. I didn't bring much money or valuables with me. I only took a few hairpins and pieces of jewelry. Plus, I can read now. So I opened a small restaurant in Yanzhou. Business is pretty good. The dishes I cook, like stir-fried pork with lentils, winter melon rib soup, and fresh chicken soup, are the most popular among the neighbors. The prices are also fair. More and more customers come to eat here. Life is getting better and better. But I often feel bad for Mr. and Mrs. Pei. My health was really weak. Old Mr. Pei often hunted game for me. Old Mrs. Pei cooked soup for me herself. But because of Pei Chi, I didn't dare to say goodbye to them. I only left a letter under their pillow. I was sighing to myself. A tall, well-built customer walks into the restaurant. I walk up to greet him, and I see it's Shu Huaijin. I panic and try to hide. He chases after me. Don't be afraid, Miss Pei. I won't tell anyone. Let's just say this is a coincidence today. That's when I learned Shu Huaijin was transferred here, recommended by the Zhongzheng official, to serve as the county magistrate of Yanzhou. I ask the cook to prepare some good dishes, and lead him into the private room. It's spring in Yeonju now. The trees outside the window are lush and green. Misty willows and beautiful bridges line the streets. This is the best time of the year. I push the window open wider and ask him, "Why don't you take a post back in Yeonju?" And come all the way to Yeonju. Shu Huijin looks down. When he looks up again, his gaze locks right onto me. I got bored of Yeonju. Yeonju is perfect for me. But why did you run away from home? The whole Pei family is worried sick. The news wasn't supposed to get out. I heard it from Chunyi by accident. Your brother is looking everywhere for you. And you actually came back to Yeonju? Are you afraid he won't find you? I lower my eyes and smile softly. He hasn't found me yet, has he? As for why I left the capital, it's the same as you. Yeonju is perfect, of course. Peicha is sure I won't come back to Yeonju. Or go back to Singhua village. But he's wrong. Before I know it, it's midsummer. Cicadas are chirping in the restaurant's backyard. The whole yard is cool and shaded. There are even more customers now. So I hired a lot of busboys and cooks. I'm so busy I can't even catch a break. On my birthday, I decided to take the day off. Miss Jo. Someone calls out to stop me. He winks and asks me that Mr. Shu has come here for several days straight. And he often stares at you when you're not looking. Does he have a crush on you? This guy is a regular at the restaurant. He even booked his wedding banquet noodles here a month ago. We're pretty much acquaintances. Looks like he's been watching Shu Huijin every day too. I wave my hand with a smile. Don't make up stuff about him. Rumors are really scary. Shu Huijin comes here every day. I'm starting to want to avoid him. I can't figure out what he thinks of me. He hasn't made his intentions clear, so I don't ask. The flutter I felt when I first met Peiche all those years ago. I haven't felt that ever since. Besides, Shu Huijin doesn't know yet that I'm not actually the Pei family's daughter. I'm just an ordinary person who craves warmth. So I took my best friend's identity. I don't want to drag him into this. Shu Huijin comes over again after closing time. He leans against the porch pillar. He has a copy of Zuo Zhuan prepared for me in his hand. You only learned to read in the last 2 years. I guess you haven't read many history books yet. Take this and see if you like it. If you don't, I'll get you something else. I'm washing the tea set. Some loose strands of hair fall down. I tuck them back with my elbow. Smile at him. Since it's your kind gesture, I'll take it. Maybe it's too hot. He quickly looks away. His earlobes are a little red. I'm just putting the tea set away. To make him a pot of cold tea, when I hear the waiter yell behind me, his voice sounds a little flustered. Boss, someone's looking for you at the door. The wind blows fallen flowers at the door everywhere. Petals cover the ground. Bright and beautiful. Peicha stands silently under the tree. Pink petals are stuck in his hair. He doesn't even notice. He just looks at me across the door. Yue must be swamped with work at the capital government office. He has dark circles under his eyes. Looks like he's been running around for days without rest. Shu Huijin walks over and pats him on the shoulder. Not sure if it's to comfort or persuade him. Shu Huijin sighs helplessly and advises Peiche. Brother Pei? Maybe Miss Pei just misses Yeonju. Don't get mad. Peicha is shocked to see him here too. He stares at me in astonishment. The man's eyes turn red instantly. I don't look at him. And don't say a word. Shu Huijin sees he's in a bad mood and persuades him, don't get angry with the lady. Maybe she has her own difficulties. Peicha clenches his fist. His voice is cold and heavy. Who's your sister? Fine, your sister? You two came to Yeonju together. This is the first time Peiche has been this angry. Shu Huijin raises 4 fingers to the sky and swears, cross my heart. I definitely didn't mean that. I pat Shu Huijin reassuringly. Tell him it's fine to leave first. No idea which move annoyed Peiche. As soon as I close the door, he hugs me gently. I try to push him away instinctively, but he holds me tighter. His voice is shaking. The man buries his face in my neck. He calls my name through gritted teeth. Shou Yue, you lied to me. You lied to the whole Pei family, and then you got this close to him. You got it wrong. We ran into each other by chance in Yeonju. I came first. He got here later. The emperor assigned him here. That's not something I can control. I can speak for myself. I push Peiche away smoothly. I want to find out why he's in Yeonju, so I ask him, Lord Pei, did you come here to take me back? Seeing how cautious I am, Peiche's eyes are full of sorrow. It's not that I want to be cautious. Back when we were in Xinhua Village, I didn't know his background. I even dared to make him bring me foot washing water. But I was just being delusional in the end. I thought he stayed in Xinhua Village for me, that he couldn't bear to leave me. I had no idea. He just forgot who he was, where he came from, where he was going. Other than me, his savior, he didn't trust anyone. Anyone could be the person who pushed him off the cliff. I also had no idea he was into learned women like the village teacher. That's why I dared to slack off and throw tantrums when he made me practice calligraphy. Zhou Huai'an, if you make me write again, I'll ignore you for good. Of course, he wouldn't stop making me practice writing, and I would never really ignore him. After all, I was totally into his good looks and great figure. The man stands behind me, holding my hand, writing over and over on the paper. Even if I spend a whole month without taking any rest, I'll make sure you learn all these characters. I grumbled about it all night. But the next day after I bathed, I still left a spot for him on the bed. Every house in the village had turned off their lights. Haisha made me recite poems again. I worked on the farm for half the day. I was already dead tired. To let me focus on practicing calligraphy, he did even more work. So of course he got thin. No, I came to see you. Yeah, I like you. Will you come home with me? When I snap back to my senses, my throat feels a little hoarse. Peicha, if I go back to the Pei residence, am I still your sister? No, my parents already know the truth. If you want, can we get married again? With all the proper wedding rituals, a proper official marriage. I can't believe it. Back when pink flowers bloomed in Xinhua Village, he never let on how he felt. When pink snow drifted through the capital in winter, he couldn't avoid me fast enough. How come after crossing thousands of miles, he suddenly figured out his own feelings? I still remember that birthday, under the camphor tree in the yard. How gentle he was to the female scholar. That kind of deep affection, I'd never seen it before. Besides, I lied to father and mother Pei. How dare he be sure he can take me back? Peicha, you don't like me. You're just unwilling to accept defeat. He said it wasn't what I thought. The jade comb from my birthday was meant for me. But the comb had a flaw. Only the female scholar didn't do farm work in the village. So he asked her to help exchange it. I'll try to exchange it for you tomorrow. Prepare another gift for your wife first. The female scholar glanced at the blue sky and lowered her voice a little. She couldn't help giving him a tip. If you like someone, you gotta say it out loud. Even if you're firewood, you gotta burn. So the other person can feel it. Peicha thought of the peachwood earrings he'd prepared, and actually smiled a little. Her personality isn't very likable. She really should change that. He specially killed a fat chicken, cooked dinner, and waited at home. But Zhou Yue never showed up. When the moon was high in the sky, he went out and ran into the Gu family's people. They were looking for Gu Yingzheng. He rushed out after them, searching all over the mountains for them. Finally, a boatman gave him a tip. Those two ladies went up north. Only then did he realize Zhou Yue left on her own. She didn't want him anymore. Peicha's breath fanned across my neck. It felt like a hot liquid dropped on it. When we were in Xinhua Village, I was too slow. I didn't understand my own feelings. Later, when I went back to the Pei mansion, I was looking for Hei, and looking for you at the same time. I never expected when we met again. You were in mother's arms, going by Hei. I was shocked and scared. I was glad I found you, but terrified you were my biological sister. I avoided you, stayed away from you, scared of the memories from when we were married, scared I'd have inappropriate thoughts. Now our identities are cleared up. Can you give me a chance? In the dark, Peiche tightened his grip, like he wanted to melt me into his bones. His sudden change left me unable to smile. I shook my head and stepped back. Back in Xinhua Village, I was very happy. When I was Peihei, I had my parents and sisters around. I was also very happy. It's the same here in Yanzhou now. Everyone has a different personality. I can adapt to any situation. You can also take everything calmly, but I just don't like people like that. I don't hate that he made me practice calligraphy. That was for my own good. I just don't like his coldness. Like nothing could ever faze him. He only ever smiled around that female scholar. I told him I loved myrtle flowers and wanted to plant one in the yard. He even went to the back hill to dig one up. But I never saw it. On your birthday, I planted a myrtle in the Xinhua village yard, but I didn't get to wait for you. You left with the Gu family's girl? I was going to confess to you that day. I froze for a second. I had no idea about any of this. But then I thought, he never told me anything. How would I have known? Pecha looked right into my eyes, his gaze burning hot. Yue, even if you don't mind my coldness, I can't keep being cold anymore. When I saw you standing with Shu Huijin, I was almost crazy with worry. The next few days, Pecha came every day, like we were still married. He worked quickly in the backyard, chopping wood 1 minute, carrying water the next. You're the eldest son of the Pei mansion. You shouldn't be doing this, go home. Pecha's long lashes trembled slightly. His gaze fell on my hands, his tone casual. Yue, I used to do all this work before. You were always happy with it. Maybe what I said that night got to him. He changed a lot. Back when we were in Xinghua village, he just works quietly with his head down and never says a single useless word. Now he doesn't even know what being aloof means. He strikes up small talk whenever he gets the chance. You can see him hanging around literally everywhere, just like a peacock showing off its colorful tail. I shake my head helplessly and stand up straight. Pecha puts the bowls back into the cupboard, then he walks back to the yard. There's still a smile on his face, like he's still my husband. He starts chopping wood skillfully. This wood is really hard to chop. You don't have enough workers at your restaurant either. I take the axe from his hand and let out a sigh. Sir, you are our guest. You don't need to do this kind of work. Pecha pauses for a second. He seems to remember something and asks again. Shu Huijin comes over every other day. Has he never chopped wood for you? He puts down the axe. He draws water from the well to wash his hands. What does he take me for anyway? I used to ask him to do chores because we lived together. He was my husband back then, but Shu Huijin is my close friend. How could I let him do this rough work? I shake my head. He has no obligation to do this. Pecha's eyes crinkle with a smile. There's a hint of joy in his voice. I look Pecha over carefully. It doesn't look like he's faking it. Like his past coldness never even happened. But everything changed a long time ago. I push him to leave. I'm about to say something more. A loud crash comes from the main hall. Something broke. Pecha hurries over right away. He finds that Shu Huijin broke a teacup. Pecha frowns. Brother Shu, you've never done this kind of work before. You'd better not touch these things. Turns out Shu Huijin saw Pecha washing dishes, so he wanted to try washing cups too. I have other important things to take care of. I kick both of them out. Yanju City falls quiet late at night. I finally get some free time. I start burning joss paper in the yard. Today is Yin Zhang's death anniversary. I even prepared a set of clothes for her. I wrote both of her childhood names on it. A gust of wind blows by suddenly. The half-burnt clothes fly away and land right in Pecha's yard next door. A few seconds later, someone knocks on the door. Pecha comes over looking for me. His eyes are a little red and moist. His voice is hoarse. Yue, who is Gu Yinzhang? Where is she? Dogs keep barking all over the city. The night is thick and dark. Dragonflies are flying very low. Looking at Pecha's features, which look so much like Yinzhang's, I zone out for a moment. The Gu couple had no kids for years after they got married. They traveled around trying everything. A few years after they left Xinghua village, they brought Yinzhang back home, said she was their daughter Yin. They even held a celebration for her arrival. They treated Yinzhang pretty well at first. Until they had 2 sons of their own, young Yinzhang had to do all kinds of work. If she didn't do a good job, she would get beaten or scolded at the very least. When her younger brothers grew up, to get enough money for their weddings, the Gu couple decided to marry her off. To old Zhang, a widower from the next village. Old Zhang was over 40 years old. He had a super violent temper. His last wife died of illness after he beat her badly. Yin Zhang couldn't take it anymore. She came to me in the middle of the night, crying and saying, Yue, do you still want to go to the capital? Let's leave together. I asked her why we had to go to the capital. She said she knew her biological parents were in the capital. She had kept the token from her birth parents all these years. After all these years, she finally saved up enough money for the trip. She grabbed my hand nervously and said with a sob, Even though I don't know how my birth parents are, if you're willing to go to the capital with me, I'll definitely find a way to give you a good life. We traveled north all the way, but the trip cost more than we expected. So we worked as embroidery girls in Suzhou for a few months, but misfortune can strike out of nowhere. Life and death are totally unpredictable. A plague broke out in Suzhou. Yinzhao had been weak since she was little. She caught the plague, unfortunately. I went to look for doctors every day and boiled medicine for her. But she didn't get any better at all. I was so anxious that I cried out loud. Yinzhang tried to comfort me instead. Yue, leave me alone. I'm fine, just like when I got sick as a kid. My mom would just ignore me and I'd get better on my own. We promised we'd go to the capital together. We can't both die on the road. Yeah. If you get infected too, we'd have to meet each other in the afterlife, right? I don't want to run into you there at all. He started talking nonsense, recalling things from his childhood. He got beaten all the time back then. I had a really short fuse, went to his house and gave his parents a piece of my mind. That made them even angrier. I never dared stand up for him in front of his parents ever since. I only brought him home after he got wronged and let him have a decent meal. But my parents passed away when I was young. We didn't have much leftover grain, so we went up the mountains and down the rivers, found lots of wild stuff to sell at the market. We used the money we made to buy rice and grain. Meals always tasted extra good when we were young, but he always tried to give his portion to me. He was even skinnier than me, for crying out loud. The sun set over the West Mountain that day. Golden orange light streamed through the window. He started rambling again, saying he couldn't go home anymore. Asked me to bury him by the Sushui River bank, at the foot of the Green Mountain. Yeah, I'm right here. Yue is going to the capital to find her parents. You have to live on for me. The hand holding the keepsake slipped down. His body was still warm, but his pulse had stopped forever. I held his hand. Tears burst out of my eyes. Yinzhang, don't have such a hard life in your next life. Be a happy, carefree Hui. When I came to my senses, Peicha was already holding me in his arms. His eyes were red. He didn't say a word for a long time. His tears kept falling down nonstop. He held me tighter and said, "If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to right now. Get some good rest, okay?" I stared at the calm, thick night sky and closed my eyes. If he'd grown up in the Pei family, he'd be as outstanding as Pei-che, just as dazzling, right? Or maybe he'd be like Chun-yi, innocent and carefree, always smiling, a kid doted on by both his parents. I couldn't stop crying, muttering over and over under my breath. Chun-yi drifted away with the auspicious clouds. When I woke up again, I was lying in the bedroom, staring blankly around me. There was no sign of Yinzhang, but there was a familiar figure outside the door. Dog barks got louder and louder. All of a sudden, the ground started shaking violently. Before I could snap out of my daze, Peicha rushed inside, grabbed my hand, and ran outside with me. When the roof beam came crashing down, I only remember Pei-che yanking me under him to protect me. Then I blacked out. When I woke up again, the sky was already turning pale at dawn. Surrounding me were collapsed houses. People's shouts drifted over from time to time. I was starving and thirsty. There was a faint stinging pain all over my body. I tried to move a little, but felt like something heavy was pinning me down. A familiar, weak voice came from the darkness. "Don't be scared, I'm okay. Shu Huaijin will bring people to rescue us soon." My heart skipped a beat. I finally came to my senses. The warmth on my back was from Pei-che. Before I could reply, he went quiet. I hurried to check his pulse. He's still alive. Thank God he didn't leave me like Yinzhao did. He survived too. Shu Huaijin showed up with people really soon. Government Yemen runners. After they moved away the collapsed wood planks and we were rescued. The doctor said Pei-che injured his bones and muscles. He needed careful nursing. Shu Huaijin looked at us. He hesitated to speak. I forced a smile to comfort him. "Go on, we're fine here." "We're okay. You take care of yourself too." It was noisy outside the house. Torchlight flickered everywhere. We survived the huge disaster. He was the local official of Yanzhou. There were more people who needed his help. Yunche finally woke up. He saw me sitting by his bed. A slow smile spread across his face. "As long as you're not hurt, Yue, I'm a little thirsty. Can you get me a glass of water?" I helped him sit up slowly and held the glass to his lips. Looking at how weak he was, I couldn't help scolding him a little. The post-disaster land was filled with the thick smell of dust. The air was full of anxious shouts. But as I scolded him, my voice choked up. "Why are you all acting like this? Why do you have to torture me like this? Don't you know I get scared too? I'm terrified of losing something again. I don't want to lose anyone around me ever again. Peicha gently wiped the tears off my face. He was injured, so his movements were very slow. I never noticed this before. After he softened up, he looks more and more like Yin Zhang. The man patted my back comfortingly and joked, "So that means Yue forgives me." I kept my head lowered. "No, I don't." Okay, you don't," he sighed. Then he suddenly said seriously, "We must fulfill Heyi's wish and live a good life." Post-disaster reconstruction proceeded slowly and tediously. Summer passed and autumn came. People's lives gradually went back to normal. After a rain shower, the scent of osmanthus filled the entire city. Peicha also fully recovered from his injuries. The few plants he planted in the yard, which are myrtles, have also borne fruit. Peicha's parents arrived right at this time. They didn't blame me at all. Mother Pei hugged me just like she always does. She kept crying out of distress for me. She said it would have been great if we found Aunt He earlier. We will bring Aunt He back to the mansion so she can return to her roots. We will also bring you back with us. We won't let you two get wronged ever again. When the osmanthus flowers fell, we went back to Manhwa village. Then we went to Suzhou together. Aunt He's grave is there. Her favorite flowers are placed in front of the grave. Peicha held my hand and smiled. We're taking Aunt He back. Home Yue. Let's go home together. Okay, we're going home, Peicha. All of us are going home.